All right, everyone, I think we're going to kick off now. And I am so excited to be here. I'm excited you're here because we are going to dive into how to undo your marketing and not get ready, but stay ready for change. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Lisa. I am a marketer just like you. I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, and it's very nice to meet you all, even though we're not meeting in person. And believe it or not, I actually never met anyone from my team here at Welcome. And I think they're only about 90% sure I'm not secretly a robot or something. But anyway, I am really excited to be here. And I'm also excited to introduce you to Welcome. So, if you don't know what we do, if you're not familiar with our brand, we make marketing work management software. And if you do already know us and you're familiar with us, welcome again. But more on that later, because first, we're going to talk about the fact that 2020 is over. And a lot of us have been celebrating it. Maybe you saw the Netflix special that just came out, Death to 2020. It was pretty hilarious. It's also been celebrated by a lot of brands in their marketing. Maybe it was a part of your campaigns as well. But here's the thing, is 2020 really over? To us, it feels like nothing's really changed. And it kind of feels like this. And I'm about to show you a video from Iceland, but no matter where you're from, no matter where you're tuning in from today, I think we can all relate to this feeling.
Mér finnst þetta bara gott skaup. Ekkert á rætið og ekki á fimmuralegt.
Nákvæmlega. Svolítið mikið af COVID-bröndurum.
Já, kannski.
Það er eðlilegt að gerist ekkert annað á þessu ári.
Guð sé lofa að þetta ári að enda.
Já.
Krakkar, það alveg að koma að þessu.
Já.
Það eru 15 sekúndur í þetta.
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gleð!
All right. So hopefully you thought that was funny. Yeah, we reached January 1st. Yay. We got a new president, so that's a huge change. But in terms of our day-to-day lives, and particularly our day-to-day lives at work, the only thing that's really changed now that we're in 2021 is the date on the calendar. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to using this year as a fresh start to improve the way we work and run our marketing, the fact is nothing will change or improve in our processes if we don't take the time to change it. And you already know that, of course. And the thing we've often seen here at Welcome is that to change their marketing process or to improve it, many marketers think that means adding to the process. So adding new steps to their process and new tools, for example. Hence the legitimately millions of MarTech tools out there. And this image is actually from Scott Brinker. If you're not familiar with him, he heads up the Chief MarTech blog, and he's a friend of ours here at Welcome. He actually presented for us in 2020, and he shared this map of all of the MarTech software options out there. And there are so many, you would need a microscope to look at them all. And he just reshared this map of MarTech with a very unimpressed Bernie in front, because there are just too many tools out there. And this isn't really a good thing, because if we integrate all of these tools into our process, it slows us down. And in fact, we found in an earlier survey that 78% of marketers have to use 5 or more tools just to plan, manage, and execute a single campaign. But this isn't just about tools. It's not just about tools that are cluttering up our marketing processes and getting in the way of us working efficiently. Think of it like lasagna. And just for fun, if a couple of you could be good sports and quickly humor me and write in the chat function here, who likes lasagna? Do you like lasagna? Yes? No? I think it's disgusting. I love it. If you could just give me your quick yes or no answer, that would be amazing. Let's take a look. Let's see. All right, we've got some coming in. Yes, yes, yes. I'm lactose intolerant. Sorry to hear that, says my husband. Gross, heavy, more on that. Yes, too many carbs. I think everybody likes carbs. Oh, I just made some the other day. Send us a picture of that. Hopefully you're eating something good for lunch right now. I know it's lunch hour. So, okay, vegetarian lasagna. Good, good. Yes. All right. So Most of you like lasagna. That's good. But just for now, the problem with the way a lot of marketing teams we've worked with is that their process is set up like lasagna, like this. So at the bottom, you've got your meat. You've got the meat of your strategy, and this represents your key goals, really what you're trying to accomplish as a team. And then you've got some pasta on the bottom for support, which is good. But then you've got more steps on top, more things you have to do that get layered over the meat. So maybe you've got some emails, some planning meetings, status updates, but then maybe there's more emails and back and forth approvals and meetings about meetings. And it gets to the point where you and your colleagues get so caught up in what we call work about work, where you're not even really doing marketing as a marketer. You're just trying to manage all of this extra stuff. And you forget about the meat at the bottom because on a day-to-day basis, you can't see the meat at the bottom. And there are just too many layers. And so, yes, you need some layers and steps and processes to hold everything together. But if you have too many, as somebody said earlier in the chat, it weighs you down. You can't run a marathon on a stomach full of lasagna. And in the same way, you can't really run with a strategy and quickly react to change if you're being weighed down with too many things in your process. And God knows what's going to change this year, lest we have pandemic number 2 or something. So what we wanted to do was talk about those layers that marketers can undo to work more efficiently. And these generally fall into a few categories. So we've got work about work, which we just touched on. We've got the extra steps, maybe the old ways of doing things that you're kind of afraid to undo at this point, and really just any of those tasks that are so time consuming that we forget to poke our heads out of the ground, like George here, out of our usual day to day, and see if there's a better way to execute the meat of our strategy, to meet our bigger goals. And that actually got us thinking. After this crazy year in 2020, what are those priorities going into 2021 for marketers? What's truly important for marketers at work in 2021? What are some of the priorities they're running into? What are some of the bottlenecks? So we teamed up with Jeff Sirkin from Sirkin Research and some of the survey wizards he works with. And seriously, if you guys ever need to do a survey, I highly recommend them. They are absolutely amazing. But we did a few surveys with Sirkin Research. We did 2 surveys, one that ended in December and one that just ended in January this month. We talked to over 600 marketers, so we were pretty happy to be able to talk to that many people. And we got a pretty varied spread of marketers. Just to break down, we've got a variety of roles represented. We had brand marketers talking to us, comms people, content marketers, demand gen people. We also had a variety of levels represented, everyone from directors to the C-suite to managers and supervisors. And we also talked to people who worked at companies of varying sizes. But besides just asking general questions about what are your priorities, what are your challenges in 2021, we also got a little bit deeper and we asked this question: what's keeping you up at night? And actually, our respondents shared some really powerful insights and really deep insights with us. And before we share the results of that, we want to know from you, what's keeping you up at night? Is there something in your marketing or in your process that you're worried about? Just the first thing that comes to mind. I'll give you a minute to tell us what you think, just to share a little bit of that experience with us, and I'll read some of the answers. And they'll be anonymous. You can message us privately if you'd like, but we're just really curious to hear what's keeping you up at night or what you're worried about. Let's see. The rub between marketing and product and sales, workload, of course, workload is a huge one. Emails, people leaving, huge. Oh, I like this one. When will the next social media crisis hit? How can we reach customers during this pandemic? More resources. I think that's like an age-old issue. Let's see. Keeping the correct tone. Okay. Not everyone's IT savvy. Presentations. Hey, I feel you right now. Okay, how COVID will keep changing interests and expectations. Love that. All right, losing organization. Yeah. A boss that wants to concentrate on everything but the meat of the lasagna. Hey, I think we can all relate to that at some point in our careers, right? All right, so we've got a lot of great answers here. Feel free to keep sharing them. We'd love to hear them and keep the conversation going. But we're going to move on now just for a little bit. And this is a word map of some of the responses we got to this question. And I see some of the same themes popping up in the answers you just sent us, which I think is really interesting. And what we found, not just through this question, but through all of the questions we asked, Jeff from Sirkin, he summed it up. He said, in 2021, the things that are most painful and most important for marketers are really just more about getting through their day. So really, overall, it's a lot of those basic level needs and basic challenges that we have at work that are really causing us the most friction. And so these basic needs that are being tested, that's really what we're going to focus on today. And what we're also going to do is we're going to touch a little bit on how our team here at Welcome has faced these challenges by undoing some of these unnecessary layers and steps, which has really helped us work really, really well together, even while working remotely, and even though some of us have never met each other in person before, ever. And we're also going to show our platform, Welcome, which we're really, really proud of. And not only because we worked really hard to build this platform, but we use our own product and it's helped us as a marketing team work better. So we're going to show you how, as a team, we at Welcome use Welcome to undo any unnecessary layers in our process. And just bear in mind, there's going to be some overlap in some of the themes and pain points and even solutions we touch on. But hopefully, this gives you some inspiration and motivation on how to work better this year. And we don't have all the answers, but we do have some tips that have worked for our team. So on that note, let's dive in. All right, so the first set of concerns, first set of needs we're going to focus on all revolve around strategy and priorities. And answering that base level question, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we running this campaign or this strategy or anything really? And so we found some key findings here. The number one priority from the marketers we surveyed, they said that their number one priority is demonstrating the business impact of marketing efforts. I think, we've always kind of had that priority, but it's not only the number one priority, it's also the number one challenge. It's really difficult to attribute campaign or content activity to revenue. And probably no surprise here, 84% say demonstrating meaningful results is important. And to get more specific, again, we asked, what's keeping you up at night? And maybe you can see some commonalities here. We've got unfocused priorities and a lack of defined goals keeping people up. This is actually in the right-hand corner, a screenshot from our Excel spreadsheet of responses. People just wrote attribution. So that is a huge issue. Mobilizing the team and content creation to speak to objectives and budgeting, creating campaigns that actually meet business objectives. I like this thought here. How do we maximize brand awareness, moving with speed and with purpose without creating random campaigns that won't deliver on ROI? And so on that note, that leads us to our first undo tip of the day. So undo random projects whenever possible and embrace the concept of laddering. So what do we mean by laddering? Well, we mean that every bit of work you do, whether it's a campaign, a blog post, even just a simple social post, on a daily basis, it should ladder up to overall strategic marketing goals, which of course should be clearly defined. I know that was a pain point we talked about earlier, tweaked and reassessed regularly, and visible to everybody. And I think this is really important, making the ladder relationship between work and goals visible to everybody on a daily basis. And really, this point is about remembering the meat, again, about the meat, which is your core marketing strategy, your main goals. And just having that meat in the back of your mind on a daily basis helps you maintain a sense of purpose, not just for yourself, but for your colleagues, for your staff. And it leads to better decision-making. When you're thinking about what the main strategy should be all the time, you're going to make better decisions that are based on these goals. And so just to quickly show you what laddering looks like in Welcome and how we ladder things, this is actually a shot from our own Welcome instance that our team uses. So here you can actually see under our work module everything that we're working on. And I've just highlighted one key goal, one of our main strategy points here, which is our paid advertising strategy. And what's great about this is everybody can see how each of these elements ladders up to the bigger strategy. You can click through all of these. You can see who's working on them, what they're all about, how they relate to the bigger goal. And what's great is also every person is visible. So for example, we have a webinar coming up as part of this strategy with the Content Marketing Institute. If you're a content marketer, I highly encourage you to check that out. Our CEO, Shaf, he's brilliant. He's going to be speaking. And what's great about this is, someone could go in there and see how I am contributing to this overall strategy, because if they click through different items, they will see my face there and they will see exactly what I am doing to further our company's overall goals. And also, for all of that work that isn't coming from your own team, you can organize it all in a separate place. So all work requests, if you can, you should try and put them all in one place so it doesn't muddle in your strategy and get slushed in with all the work you planned. That's probably higher priority. So here we've got a really handy work request module. This is just a quick preview of how it works. And so someone from a different team, if they have a request to make a marketing, they can submit it through here. And what's really great also, and I think my favorite feature about this, is that you set the priority level. Because if the requester was able to set that, everybody would be saying that every request is urgent, which it probably isn't. So the end thought I want to leave you with, regardless of how you do this, is there a way you can ladder up every activity to every goal in your strategy and make sure everybody sees that? And I'll just give that a second to marinate. All right, next up, we're going to talk about one of the other big basic needs that came up in our survey, collaboration, all about working better together. So just some of the key findings we found. Some of these might not be a huge surprise to you. 80% say improving collaboration is important. It's the number 3 priority, improving collaboration out of everything we assessed. And it's also the number 1 bottleneck. So requesting work, ideating work, creating work with other people, editing, reviewing, AKA just working with other people is the biggest bottleneck to moving quickly and efficiently. And to get deeper, to get more specific, we asked, what's keeping you up at night? Collaboration issues due to COVID, that's a huge one. Getting buy-in from stakeholders and making them adhere to standards, cross-functional alignment, cross-functional collaboration, educating internal teams about content marketing, about what this person even does and why we have to uphold the strategic plans we developed at the onset of a project. And we also had a few people using this question, what's keeping you up at night, to vent and let off some serious steam. I love this one answer we got. We had someone write in, I am a data/development person, primarily supporting the development department who sits on a true marketing team. It's a nightmare for me. I can function on a marketing team, but I have no business doing so. It makes everything complicated. This is the weirdest situation I have ever been in. And so that leads us to our next tip, undo tip number 2, undo pyramids where you can within the way you work in marketing, and instead embrace pods. So just before we quickly introduce this idea, this was actually inspired by the book Team of Teams. When our CEO, Shaf, read this, he completely reworked the way that we all work together. So typically, you've got like some of these pyramids, right? A lot of work is top down. Maybe you're only reporting to your direct supervisor. Maybe they're the only ones really involved with what you're working on, or vice versa. Or maybe you're only really working within your specific team or function, whether it be content or ops or whatever. And then you have to hand things off to the next team for the next stage in order to get things done. We decided to undo that. And instead, we switched to a pod structure. And every pod is revolving around just one objective or one project. And so what we do is we get individuals from different teams that are relevant to launching this objective together. And each of those individuals, they work together from beginning to end. And everyone in the pod really gets to understand each other. If you look here at the bottom, for example, one of our pods is for these Undo series webinars. Yes, I'm from content, I'm presenting it, but it's not only about me. I've been closely working with ops to make sure that you all get your email invites and you can log in today and be here right now. I've been working with the product team to make sure I describe our product accurately. And our designers have also been making sure that this deck doesn't look terrible. So all of us have been working together really, really closely. And so what's really great about this is, again, nothing needs to filter through from one team to the next. And when something needs to change, it doesn't need to go through 5 different levels or teams. You can just organize a task force to work together, to be autonomous, and just do what needs to be done. And just to quickly show you what pods look like in Welcome, this is a shot from our Welcome website and SEO launch. And you can see that there are tons of different individuals from different departments represented here. We've got our CMO here, our VP of product, our VP of CS, marketing ops. And it's great because everyone can see what's going on all the time. There's less handing off between teams, less explaining what's going on, less back and forth approvals, and really collaborators are working together from the start. And this leads to greater visibility, but more on that next. And what I think is really, really probably the best benefit of pod collaboration is that it leads to better empathy, to more empathy, because colleagues from different teams and functions, they're better understanding each other's priorities, their roles, their daily challenges, and we really get to know each other better as people, and it builds a stronger team. And also, just to give you a quick heads up, later this quarter, we are going to be talking all about how you can create this sort of pod structure specifically within your own marketing organization. We partnered with Forrester and Serious Decisions for this, and it's going to be a really awesome webinar, and I'm super excited for it. But for now, we've got one question for you. Is there a way you can work in pods, not pyramids, based on objectives, not necessarily a level or team, and boost empathy throughout your organization while you're at it? And I will just let that marinate for a second. All right. So next up, we are going to talk about visibility because, as you know, greater visibility, greater transparency leads to trust. A couple of our key findings here. The number 2 biggest challenge out of all the challenges we assessed was the lack of a single unified calendar where you can see everything that's going on, where you can visualize content dev, campaigns, projects, aka everything that you do in marketing. 77% said maintaining visibility is important. It's also the number 2 bottleneck, reporting marketing performance and seeing it as it pertains to overall goals for campaign effectiveness, team efficiency, content, whatever it may be. And the number 3 biggest challenge is having poor visibility into resource bandwidth and competing priorities. And once again, we asked what's keeping you up at night. We wanted to get to that deeper level. And we got a couple of interesting responses here, staying on top of constantly changing deadlines, seeing what those are, responding to new requests and priorities and having to shift focus to support other teams. Execs don't understand my role. Maybe they can't see what this person's role even is. Keeping up with the huge volume of demands popping up and the fear of making a mistake and maybe missing something, and aligning multiple stakeholders to the same goals. And so really, I think a lot of these are about being able to see and respond to what's going on, and for others to be able to see and respond to what's going on with you. And so that leads us to undo tip number 3, undo team-only calendars that are only between you and your team, and embrace shared calendars. So just to quickly show you what we mean by that, this is what shared calendars look like in Welcome. We've got literally all of our marketing activities on one calendar, and the whole team can see what's going on, when it's going to happen, less explaining to execs like what our schedule is because they can see it right here. And we've got everything in here, and you can even color code it. We've got colors for webinars, for product launches, social promos, you name it. And here's what it looks like to share that calendar with somebody else. We've got multiple views, so we've got the calendar view, the traditional calendar view that we showed before. We've got this timeline view here. It's easy to share with anybody who's in marketing or otherwise. And if you do share this with a colleague outside of marketing, it's easy for them to see for themselves that you're busy and maybe you don't have time to fulfill their work request. And also, we have another tip for visibility and improving visibility on your team, and that is undo tip number 4. Undo endless manual status updates and embrace automatic real-time updates. So instead of having to constantly report what it is you're doing and what the status of that project is, instead embrace just something that will automatically update your project and they'll be able to see what you're working on. And just to show you what real-time updates look like in Welcome, we've got this handy Kanban view here where you can see what everybody individually is working on. So you're not going to get as many of those questions. What are you working on? You can see it here. So there's going to be way fewer status updates, reports on what you did and what you're doing. They generate automatically, and so you don't have to worry about constantly sending in those updates. It's also great because our CEO, he often peeps in and he comments and he asks questions and he really sees what each of us are doing and what the value of the work is that we're doing. And so I think that kind of addresses that pain point we brought up earlier when someone wrote in, execs don't even understand what my role is. If they can see your to-do list, I think they will understand what your role is. And most importantly, you've got more time to do your work and less time doing work to prove that you're doing work. And I think what's great about this, it's about more than just like the efficiency aspect of it. Really, when you share your calendars, when you share your to-do list in real time, it gives you a greater sense of relief, because imagine the possibilities without the burden of having to say what you're working on or constantly be answering those questions. It also opens up relationships. You've got, instead of this one-to-one like manager to employee or employee to manager relationship, everyone can see what everyone is doing and hold each other accountable. So the final question I want to leave you with for this point: how can you make everything marketing does easy to see for every marketer on your team and for your entire organization? All right. So now we are going to move on to the final factor that we analyzed here in our survey, and that is bandwidth. This was one of the huge concerns that came up, and really just, getting it all done in time. I think this is something everybody struggles with. Some of the key findings we found: 47% say freeing up their team to actually drive results is very important. And this was actually rated as the most very important factor of all of the factors that we analyzed. Also, and what I found especially shocking and mildly horrifying is this stat here in the middle, which is that 25% of us spend more than 50% of our time planning and coordinating our work instead of actually doing any of our work. So how do we even get anything done? And so it's no wonder that 72% say that eliminating admin work, all of this extra work about work, is important, with 70% saying reducing the number of planning coordination meetings is also important. And again, to go on that deeper level, what's keeping us up at night? Again, another screenshot from the survey Excel sheet: bandwidth, bandwidth, bandwidth. A lot of people just wrote that word. Inefficient processes, getting it all done, just the sheer breadth of work to complete, getting everything done in a timely fashion, juggling priorities and scaling projects. And then also we have some more thoughts here: keeping employees engaged and productive, no work-life balance, workload in the new normal, the well-being of my team, and my personal favorite here in the middle: what's keeping you up at night? The capricious whims of my boss. So just to quickly plug this, coming soon, one of our next webinars, we are going to have an how to unclutter your marketing and spark joy in your team session. This is a Marie Kondo style workshop, if Marie Kondo was for marketers. If you're not familiar with Marie, she is a decluttering and tidying and organizing expert from Japan. But for now, we've got one tip for you. How can you undo marketing planning from scratch and instead embrace automatic playbooks? Now, what's interesting here is we actually asked about the importance of automating parts of your process. And we thought that these numbers would be higher, but automating campaign playbooks, automating marketing processes, this wasn't rated as a particularly important priority for the marketers that we surveyed. So I just wanted to clarify what we mean by playbook, because I think if we had maybe explained that a little clearer in our survey, we might have gotten those numbers up. So when we say a playbook, we mean the standard steps, the standard workflow in a project that you execute regularly, whether that's a social post or a webinar or a product launch, really anything. So just to show you what playbooks look like in Welcome, this was set up by my colleague Anthony, and we have all of these playbooks for pretty much anything that we could do as a marketing team. So we've got webinars, surveys, sponsored events, and all you have to do is set this up once. If you click on each of these, you'll see the steps that are required to launch each of these different types of activities. There's strict rules, nobody can delete or edit them. And what's great is you just have to take one of these playbooks and copy to create a new campaign, and you've got all of the steps in your list of what you need to do set up. So you just copy and go. Everything's perfectly replicated. You never miss a step. You save a lot of time because you don't have to write out everything you're going to do before you do it. It's just one less admin headache, and it's easy to redo what works. So if you launch something perfectly and you want to recreate that magic, you can remember exactly what it is you did to get that campaign off the ground and make it happen again. So my final thought for you: how can you automate or eliminate repetitive tasks in your process, save your team time, and ultimately reduce burnout, which I think is important. All right. So just to quickly close up, we covered a lot today. We covered collaboration, visibility, bandwidth, prioritizing, meat, lasagna, food analogies, and we talked about a few practical solutions to some of the problems marketers like you and some of you today in your comments hit on. But just a reminder that it all goes even deeper. The impact of running into these roadblocks around collaboration and visibility and bandwidth, they may seem small when you encounter them on a normal workday or on a daily basis, but the impact can add up and further amplify some of the more base level worries that we have. And this is what some of the marketers we talked to chose to tell us about their deeper worries. We've got serious stuff here. We have worries about how the world is changing and if their companies are equipped to react to these changes. Just our general sense of uncertainty around change and the unknown, our own job security. We saw massive layoffs. Are we next? You can't help but wonder, am I next? No matter how good you are at your job. And you're wondering also, do the right people at my company know the value of my work and how that ladders up to our general strategy? And, so these are really consequences that are popping up in response to all of these pain points. So what I want to leave you with, the final thought: how can you undo basic issues in your process to better fulfill your colleagues and your own basic needs? And with that, I say thank you so much. If you want to learn more about what we do, go to welcomesoftware.com. If you want to get a tour of the product or just want to say hi to me, I'm pretty lonely over here in my apartment, just say hi at lisa@welcomesoftware.com.